6. 6 times Alex Eala broke the serve of Elina Svitolina. This was not a qualifier. This was not a wildcard catching fire for 1 week. Svitolina is a former world number 3, the reigning Italian Open champion, ranked 10th in the world, with 20 titles and an Olympic medal. 6 breaks. 2 sets. 90-odd minutes on a warm Friday night in Rock Creek Park. Over the next 48 hours, almost every highlight package from Washington will show the same images. A forehand winner. A backhand down the line. A fist pump. A roaring crowd. Filipino flags in every corner. Those clips will show what Eala hit. They will not show what actually broke Svitolina. The real story was happening when Eala did not even have the ball. Here is the number almost every recap skipped. Return points 1. Eala, 24. Svitolina, 13. Against a top 10 player, Eala won nearly twice as many points on the return as Svitolina did. That is not the number of a close quarterfinal. That is the number of a match that looked polite on the scoreboard and brutal everywhere else. The final score was 6-3, 6-4, but the number that matters is 6 breaks of serve. And the reason that number matters is not only tactical, it reveals something about Eala that should make Naomi Osaka very uncomfortable. To understand it, start with the strangest part of the match. Both players were struggling on serve. Eala got broken. Svitolina got broken. One break followed another. The first time either player held serve in the match, the score was already 4-2. Think about that. 2 elite professionals had played 6 games, and neither one had protected the game she was supposed to control. So how did that chaos become 6 breaks for Eala and a straight sets defeat for the higher-ranked player? That is the question. The answer begins with the return numbers, but it does not end there. First, we need to understand who Eala did this to. Elina Svitolina is not a player you normally beat by hitting harder. That is not the structure of her game, and it is not the usual structure of her defeats. She has reached the highest levels of the sport. She won the WTA Finals in 2018. She has an Olympic bronze medal. She has reached the semifinals at Wimbledon, the US Open, and the Australian Open. She has been one of the most reliable competitors on tour for more than a decade. And she is not living on an old reputation. She won the Italian Open in 2026. The important part is not the resume. The important part is the style. Svitolina wins by asking for one more ball. Then another. Then another. She absorbs pace. She changes the shape of the rally. She sends back a ball that is slightly deeper, slightly lower, or slightly more awkward than the one before it. Then she waits for impatience. Young aggressive players often give her exactly what she wants. They try to end the rally one shot too early. They reach for a winner that is not really there. Svitolina does not need to overpower them. She only needs them to rush. On paper, that makes her a terrible matchup for a 21-year-old left-hander who likes to play fast. Except Eala has now beaten her twice. The first win came in Berlin in June, on grass. The second came in Washington on July 31st, on hard court. The score was identical both times. 6-3, 6-4. 2 surfaces, 2 continents. 6 weeks apart. That is not enough to prove everything. It is enough to eliminate the easiest explanations. This was not a surface accident. This was not a lucky scoreline. This was not a fading opponent having a bad season. Something repeatable is happening. Now, go back to that first set in Washington. It lasted 43 minutes. Eala broke Svitolina 4 times in one set. 4 times against the second seed, in less than 3/4 of an hour. To understand how unusual that is, remember what a service game means. The server begins the point in control. She chooses where the first ball goes. She starts the pattern. At the professional level, holding serve is the basic expectation. A break does more than change the score. It takes away the one game a player is supposed to own. Eala did that to Svitolina 6 times in 20 games. Svitolina served roughly 10 games in the match, and Eala took 6 of them. Breaks happen more often in matches between women than in matches between men. Returners stand closer. Rally tolerance is higher. Serve speeds are generally lower. 4 breaks in a match can happen. 5 can happen. 6 breaks against a top 10 player in straight sets on a hard court is not normal. The number 24-13 explains the scale of it. But it still does not explain why Svitolina could not stop it, because Eala was losing service games too. At the beginning of the match, Eala broke first. Svitolina broke back, Eala broke again, Svitolina answered again, nobody was building control. Then Eala broke a third time to move ahead 4-2. After that, she finally held. It was the first hold of the match. That was the first separation between the two players. Not because Eala suddenly served brilliantly, because she found a way to stop the exchange of breaks before Svitolina did. Then came the sequence that changed the emotional shape of the set. Set 1, 8th game. Eala serving. Svitolina created 3 break points, 3 chances to get back into the set, 3 chances to drag the match into the kind of long, uncomfortable battle she has controlled for years. Eala won the next 5 points. 5 straight points. She erased all 3 break points and held. Then, in the very next game, she broke Svitolina to win the set. That sequence matters more than a single forehand winner. Eala did not simply survive pressure. She turned the pressure into momentum. Svitolina spent an entire game trying to force her way back into the set. Eala absorbed that effort, escaped, and immediately attacked the next service game. The scoreboard does not tell us exactly what Svitolina felt, but it shows what happened next. The veteran created her best opening of the set. The younger player closed the door, then the younger player took the set. That is the first clue. Eala is not only dangerous when she is leading. She becomes most dangerous immediately after the opponent believes the match is turning. If this kind of analysis is what you want after the biggest matches, follow the channel. The goal here is not to repeat the highlights. The goal is to find the pattern hiding underneath them. Now look at set 2. Svitolina came out of the changeover like a different player. She broke immediately. 2-0. Eala pulled 1 game back. Svitolina restored the gap. 3-1. This is where experience is supposed to take over. Svitolina has spent years doing exactly this. Lose a quick first set. Slow the match down, make the younger player think. Turn 1 set into 3. The veteran was ahead, the momentum had shifted. Then Eala won 3 games in a row. Not after a comfortable stretch. Not after several easy holds. Immediately after falling behind. 3 straight games. 4-3, Eala. That is where the central idea of this match becomes visible. Most people are asking how good Eala is when she plays well. How high is the ceiling? How big is the forehand? How dangerous is the left-handed serve? Those are normal questions for a young player. They are not the most important questions here. Eala does not appear to play her best only when she is ahead. She appears to raise her level immediately after she loses something. A service game, a set, a run of points, a piece of control. For many young players, losing serve becomes emotional weight. One lost game affects the next return game. The next return game affects the next service game. By the time the score is close again, the body is still carrying the previous mistake. Eala looked different. Losing serve did not seem to become a story in her head. It was a game that ended. Then she returned to work. That is why the 6 breaks matter. The return is the weapon. The response to setbacks is what keeps the weapon active. A great returner who loses focus after every service break will not create 6 breaks in one match. After several swings of momentum, the feet slow down, the decisions become cautious. The return begins to land in the net. Eala kept returning with the same intent. The score moved. Her posture did not. Most players carry the scoreline from one game into the next. Eala looked as if she reset it at every changeover. That is why she still looked light late in the match, while Svitolina looked as if every exchange had added weight. This is not only a theory built from one set. The same shape appeared throughout the tournament. Go back 1 round. Leylah Fernandez. The defending champion in Washington, a Grand Slam finalist, another left-hander. A player who had beaten Eala in their previous meeting in Stuttgart. Eala won the first set 6-2. The number underneath that set was even more revealing. 4 unforced errors from Eala. 14 from Fernandez. That was not a reckless attacking burst. Eala was not trying to produce a winner on every point. She was controlling the space, extending the right rallies, and making Fernandez play under pressure. Then the match changed. Fernandez won 5 games in a row. Eala fell behind 1-5 in the second set. One more game, and the match would be heading to a decider. This is where a young player is supposed to feel the match slipping away. Eala did not only recover. She reached the tiebreak and won it 7-1. 7-1. From 1-5 down, she did not crawl into safety. She took complete control of the most important 7 points of the set. That is the same mechanism. The opponent creates momentum. Eala responds with a sharper run. Now go back another round. Zheng Qinwen, Olympic gold medalist, former world number 4. A player Eala had faced before at the Asian Games in 2023 and lost to. Eala lost the first set in Washington, 6-4. The largest setback of her tournament came in the opening round. Then she won the second set, 6-4. Then she won the third set, 6-1. 6-1. The biggest surge of her tournament came immediately after losing the first set. The loss did not slow her down, it reorganized her. Now place the 3 matches beside each other. Against Zheng, Eala loses the first set, then dominates the third. Against Fernandez, Eala falls behind 1-5, then wins the tiebreak 7-1. Against Svitolina, Eala falls behind 1-3 in the second set, then wins 3 games in a row. 3 matches. 3 deficits. 3 surges. That is not a mood. That is a mechanism. And now the 6 breaks against Svitolina make more sense. Eala did not need Svitolina to play badly for the entire match. She only needed to remain emotionally neutral when Svitolina played well. 1 break of serve. 1 momentum swing. 1 game with 3 breakpoints. Every time Svitolina created energy, Eala answered quickly enough to prevent that energy from becoming control. 3 breakpoints down, Eala won 5 straight points and then broke for the set. 1-3 down in set 2, Eala won 3 straight games and took the lead. The breaks were not random. They arrived in clusters. The clusters often began when Svitolina believed she had found a way back into the match. That is why the return numbers and the mental pattern belong together. 24 return points won, 6 breaks, but the deeper number is not 6. The deeper number is 0. 0 visible panic after losing serve. 0 long emotional recovery. 0 need to wait for momentum to return. Eala created the next momentum swing herself. After the match, she was asked about the matchup with Svitolina. She rejected the easy explanation. She did not frame the result as a special advantage against one opponent. She said she came into the match with a great mindset and that she was playing really well. That matters. A 21-year-old had just beaten the same top 10 opponent twice in 6 weeks on 2 different surfaces with the same score. She still refused to make it about one matchup. She described it as a state she brought onto the court, a mindset, a level, something portable. If she is right, then Svitolina was not the full story. Svitolina was the clearest example. The end of the match supports that idea. Svitolina served to stay in the match at 4-5. She saved 1 match point. Then she saved another. The crowd rose. The pressure moved back toward Eala. This is where a 21-year-old is supposed to feel the weight of the moment. Then Svitolina double faulted, her 3rd double fault of the set, match over. The player who cracked at the end was not the younger player. It was the player with the Olympic medal. 1 match can be coincidence. 2 can be a favorable matchup. 3 matches in one tournament begin to look like identity. And the results around this run make the picture even bigger. The win over Svitolina was the 6th top 10 victory of the year for Eala. It sent her into her 3rd WTA semifinal of the season. She reached that stage as the only semifinalist in Washington who was not one of the top 4 seeds. Pegula was there. Osaka was there. Schneider was there. Then Eala. The player outside the expected group. The win also pushed her to number 25 in the live rankings, a career high. The official ranking would still show number 28 because rankings are frozen during the 1000 level events. Her results had moved faster than the list. Now comes the opponent who changes the scale of everything. Naomi Osaka. 4 Grand Slam titles. Former world number 1. one of the most dangerous first strike players in the sport, and she has never played Eala. There is no head-to-head, no direct pattern between them, no previous match for either player to use as emotional evidence. That makes the numbers from the quarterfinal even more important. Osaka reached the semifinal after losing the first set to Elisabetta Cocciaretto 6-4. She recovered and won the deciding set 6-3. It was a strong comeback. But one number should concern her. Her first serve percentage was 47%. Fewer than half of her first serves landed in the box. Now place that number beside the match Eala just played. 24 return points won against Svitolina, 6 breaks against a top 10 player, 4 breaks in the first set, a return game that stayed aggressive after every setback. A pattern that appears to become stronger when the opponent creates momentum. Second serves are not neutral balls against Eala, they are invitations. Osaka has the power to end points faster than Svitolina. She can take the racket out of the hands of an opponent in a way few players can. That is the danger for Eala. But Osaka also plays with thinner margins. When the first serve disappears, the second serve becomes the starting point of the rally. That is where Eala has been building entire matches. The semifinal will not be decided only by how many winners Osaka hits. It may be decided by how many second serves Eala sees. It may be decided by what happens after Osaka breaks. It may be decided by whether Osaka can win a stretch of points without giving Eala the immediate chance to answer, because that has been the pattern all week. Zheng took the first set. Eala responded. Fernandez built a 5-game run. Eala responded. Svitolina broke first in set 2. Eala responded. The question is no longer whether Eala can play brilliant tennis when everything is working. The question is whether an opponent can survive what happens after she makes Eala uncomfortable. That is the trap. The opponent wins something and believes the match has changed. Eala treats that moment as the beginning of her next attack. If Osaka lands fewer than half of her first serves again, she will give Eala repeated access to the exact phase of the point where Eala has controlled this tournament. And if Osaka breaks serve, she cannot assume that the danger has passed. Against Eala, the break may be the trigger, not the wound. That is why 6 is the number that matters. Not because 6 breaks look impressive on a stat sheet, because those breaks reveal the shape of the player creating them. A player who returns with intent, a player who does not wait for confidence, a player who appears to become clearest when the match becomes unstable. The highlights will show the winners. The score will show 6-3, 6-4, but the real story is what happened between those numbers. Svitolina created openings. Eala closed them. Svitolina built momentum. Eala took it back. Svitolina made the younger player uncomfortable. The younger player became more dangerous. Now Naomi Osaka is next. And if her first serve falls to 47% again, she will not simply be walking into a semifinal. She will be walking into the exact pattern that ended the tournament of Elina Svitolina.